There are mornings when I sit down at my desk, open my laptop, and just can't start. Not because I don't have time, but because everything around me feels like a quiet reminder that I'm behind. A lidless plastic container, a stack of papers leaning sideways, random things I keep meaning to put away but never do. Nothing big on its own, but together, they wear me down before the day even begins. For the longest time, I thought I just needed to tidy up a little. But then I realized it wasn't really about the mess. It was about feeling like I'd lost control of my rhythm. When the space around me felt cluttered, my mind did too. And that loop of clean, clutter, guilt, it was exhausting. If that's where you are right now, I get it. You're not lazy. You're carrying too much, both the visible mess and the invisible weight of keeping everything going. So no, today's not about cleaning the whole house. We're just going to start small. One corner, one shift that feels doable. Let me show you a place to begin with something simple, the containers in your home that are no longer serving you. Let's start with something that looks helpful but often isn't. There was a time when I thought the only way to feel calm was to clean the whole house. I'd empty every drawer, reorganize everything, and then somehow by the end of the week, it was back to chaos. Eventually, I realized some of the mess was coming from the things I thought were helping. If you've ever opened a drawer and found a stack of plastic containers with no lids, baskets that collapse in on themselves, or cute boxes you bought just in case you're not alone. These items are meant to organize our lives, but when they're broken, mismatched, or unused, they quietly add to the clutter instead of reducing it. Here's a way to reset. Pick one small space. A drawer, a corner of the pantry, a shelf near the entryway. Pull out every container you've been using and ask, is this actually helping me keep things in order? Or have I just been keeping it because I didn't want to throw it away? I once had a drawer with 5 different baskets inside, only one actually held anything. The others were bent, stained, or empty, just taking up space. It wasn't until I got rid of them that I saw how little I truly needed to keep that area functional. When we remove the tools that no longer serve us, we make space for the systems that actually do. It's not about the perfect organizer, it's about clarity. But before you rush off to reorganize everything, pause. There's something most people skip, and it's the reason why so many decluttering attempts don't last. In the next video, I'll share the one mindset shift that changes everything, and if you're about to declutter, you'll want to hear it first. Next, let's talk about the items we keep telling ourselves we'll fix, but deep down we know we won't. Next, let's talk about the stuff we keep not because we love it, not because we use it, but because we once said, I'll fix it. There was a time when I had a whole shelf in the laundry room filled with good intentions. A broken iron, a lamp that flickered, a backpack with a busted zipper. I kept telling myself, just need to get that to the shop, or one day I'll find the part online. That shelf stayed full for 2 years, and not one thing got fixed. We hold on because we don't want to waste. We think keeping it is being responsible. But really, every broken item is a tiny decision left unmade. And over time, those unmade decisions pile up and start feeling heavy. So here's the shift. Instead of asking, can this be fixed? Ask, realistically, will I fix it this month? If the answer is no, it's time to let it go. Try this walk through your home with a laundry basket. Pick out every item that's broken, damaged, or not working the way it should. Don't overthink it, just gather. Then sort them into 2 piles. Fix this week and let it go. If the fix pile doesn't get touched by Sunday night, you know what to do. The lamp I held onto, I let it go after 3 years. I don't miss it. What I do notice is how that corner no longer whispers, you still haven't dealt with me. Up next is a type of clutter that hides in drawers and filing cabinets, the paper you didn't even know you were keeping. Now let's move on to something that doesn't look messy until you open the drawer. There was a phase when every surface in my home looked tidy, but inside my drawers, stacks of papers I didn't even remember keeping. Expired coupons, old receipts, instruction manuals for things I no longer owned. Tax forms from 6 years ago. And in some corner, random scribbled notes I swore I'd need one day, but never looked at again. Paper clutter is quiet, and that's why it stays so long. It doesn't scream for attention like a pile of laundry or a messy kitchen counter, But every time you open a drawer and see it, something in you sighs. Here's where you can start. Choose just one spot. Maybe it's your kitchen junk drawer. Maybe it's the stack of folders near your desk. Set a timer for 15 minutes. Pull everything out. And be honest. What do you actually need? If it's something important like legal documents or medical records, great. Keep it in a labeled folder, easy to find. If it's something you've held onto out of guilt or just in case thinking, it's okay to let it go. I had an envelope full of old utility bills from 2 apartments ago. Every time I saw it, I thought I'll shred these later. 2 years later, it was still there. When I finally tossed it, I felt like I could breathe a little deeper. These little paper piles carry more than information, they carry mental load. And clearing them doesn't just free space in a drawer, it frees a few inches of headspace too. Let's keep going. The next kind of clutter is wrapped in kindness but still taking up space. Let's talk about something harder to admit, the gifts we're not using but still keeping. There was a birthday where I got a fancy candle in a scent I couldn't stand. A soft throw blanket I never used. A mug with a quote I would never pick for myself. But I kept them. Not because I needed them, not even because I liked them, but because I felt guilty. So many of us hold on to items simply because someone we care about gave them to us. It's not the object we're attached to, it's the emotion. We worry that letting it go means rejecting the person, the memory, the moment. But here's the truth. A gift has already done its job when it made you feel cared for. Keeping it out of obligation doesn't honor the person who gave it. It only clutters the space you live in every day. Try this. Find one item in your home that you're only keeping because it was a gift. Hold it. Ask yourself, if I bought this for myself, would I keep it? If not, thank it quietly and let it go. I remember donating that candle. I still remember who gave it to me. The memory didn't disappear. But now, every time I walk past that shelf, I see something I chose, not something I felt trapped by. Now let's move on to something that blends in but shifts the whole feel of a room, the decor you no longer even like. Now let's talk about the stuff that sits quietly on your shelves, not because you love it, but because it's always been there. I had a painting in our hallway that I bought in my 20s. Back then, it felt bold, a little edgy, something I thought looked grown up. Years later, I realized I didn't even like it anymore. It didn't reflect who I was or how I wanted our home to feel, but it stayed because I didn't question it. Decor has this sneaky way of blending into the background. You walk by it every day. You don't notice it, but you also don't connect to it. And over time, a house filled with things you've outgrown can start to feel less like home and more like a version of you that no longer fits. Here's a small shift you can make. Choose one room. Stand in it and ask yourself, if I were moving in today, what would I not bring back into this space? What doesn't feel like me anymore? You don't need to redecorate everything, but removing just one piece, one vase, one wall, hanging one set of throw pillows that no longer sparks, anything can breathe fresh energy into a room. I replaced that painting with a simple photo I took on a weekend trip. Every time I pass it now, I smile, because it's not just art, it's a piece of my life I still feel connected to. Coming up next, the duplicates, the extras, the just-in-case items that quietly crowd our cabinets. Now let's shift to something that hides in plain sight, the duplicates we didn't mean to collect. I remember opening the kitchen drawer one day and realizing I had 6 vegetable peelers. 6. 2 were broken, 1 was rusting, and I only ever used one, the one I liked. It wasn't just peelers. It was measuring cups, scissors, mugs, spatulas, all slowly multiplying over time. We don't set out to own too much. But when we're busy, it feels easier to grab another one than to find the old one. Or we keep extras just in case something breaks, in case we have guests, in case we finally host that dinner party we've been putting off for 3 years. But here's what I've learned: when everything is extra, nothing feels special. And your space starts to feel overstuffed with backup plans for a life you're not actually living. Try this. Pick one category: mugs, tote bags, scissors, anything. Lay all of them out. Choose the ones you actually use and like. Be honest, 2 is probably enough. maybe 3. The rest donate or recycle. I once kept 10 mismatched mugs because they were still good. But once I narrowed them down to 3, my mornings felt calmer. No more grabbing a chipped cup or one that reminded me of a company I don't even work for anymore. Letting go of duplicates is a quiet way of saying I trust that what I have is enough. And speaking of just-in-case items, let's talk about the quiet piles of magazines and mail we plan to read someday. Let's talk about a kind of clutter that doesn't look like clutter until it quietly starts weighing on you. For a long time, I had a small stack of magazines next to the bed, then a few more on the coffee table, some flyers near the front door, a growing pile of to-read material that I kept telling myself I'd get to soon. But I never did. And yet, I didn't throw them away either, because it felt like throwing away potential. Like admitting I was never going to read that article on 15 ways to simplify your life. Ironic, right? Paper clutter like this is tricky. It pretends to be inspiration, but in reality, it quietly says, you're not caught up. You're behind. And that's not a message I need in my own home. Here's what helped. I gave myself permission to let it go. If I hadn't read it in 30 days, I probably wasn't going to. Now I keep one small tray. Anything I truly want to read goes there. When the tray's full, something comes out before something new goes in. One day, I recycled a whole stack without even opening most of them. And the next morning, the space next to my bed felt calmer. Not cleaner, calmer. Letting go of unread reading isn't giving up. It's choosing peace over pressure. Next, let's move into something more practical. The boxes we keep just in case that are quietly crowding our storage. Next, let's talk about something that's probably taking up more space than you realize: empty boxes. At one point, I had a full cabinet in the hallway just for boxes. Not moving boxes, product boxes. The kind you keep when you buy a new blender or phone, thinking I might need it if I return this, or it's good to have the original packaging, and so they stayed. Months went by, then years. The return window closed. The product worked fine. But the boxes, still there, taking up shelves, corners, and that one awkward spot on top of the wardrobe. We keep them because they feel too good to toss, because they represent something new we bought, because tossing them feels wasteful. But here's the thing, they're not helping anymore. They're just holding dust and holding space you could actually use. Here's a small step: walk through your home and gather all the empty boxes from recent purchases. Set a simple rule: if the return period is over and the item is still working, the box goes. Break it down, recycle it. I did this one afternoon and was shocked: 7 boxes. 2 from old laptops, 1 from a fan I bought 3 summers ago. And the moment I cleared them out, my storage space opened up like I had added a new shelf. Sometimes the clutter isn't what's broken, it's what's simply not useful anymore. Next up, we're heading to something we carry more than we store: bags, purses, and backpacks we no longer even touch. Now let's talk about the purses, totes, and backpacks that haven't left the closet in years. There was a time I thought I needed a different bag for every occasion. One for errands, one for nicer days out, one that fit my laptop, another for when I had the kids. Before I knew it, I had a whole shelf of bags and I still only used 2. The truth is, we grow out of things. Styles change. Our needs shift. That tote with the stiff straps that digs into your shoulder, that crossbody you stopped using because the zipper always stuck, we hold on to them for someday, but we never choose them when it's time to walk out the door. Here's something simple you can do. Take every bag you own and hang them up where you can see them. Not in a pile, not in the back of the closet. Just hang them. Then ask, which of these do I reach for without hesitation? Which ones do I actually like using? I did this once and realized there was one purse I hadn't touched in over 3 years. It was beautiful, but it didn't feel like me anymore. Letting it go didn't feel wasteful, it felt honest. Like giving myself permission to dress for the life I live now, not the version of me I've outgrown. When we clear out the things we no longer carry, we lighten the emotional weight too. Now let's move to something a little more hidden: the tangled mess of tech items we swear we might need again, but never do. Let's talk about that drawer. You know, the one filled with old chargers, tangled cables, maybe a phone from 2012. For the longest time, I had a box labeled tech stuff sitting on a shelf. Inside were 3 dead phones, 2 remotes with no backs chargers for devices I couldn't even remember owning, and a USB cable that didn't fit anything I currently used. But I kept it all just in case. Technology clutter is sneaky. It feels valuable, like we might need it. It's small, so it doesn't seem like a problem. But over time, it builds up, and every time you go looking for the one cable you do need, you have to dig through 20 you don't. Here's a way to reset: dump the whole drawer or box out onto a flat surface. Every item gets one question. Do I still use this, or do I even know what it's for? If the answer is no, it goes. You don't have to throw it in the trash lots of places except tech recycling. You're not being wasteful. You're letting go of the false idea that everything has to stay just in case. I remember finally letting go of a tangle of cords I hadn't touched in years. The drawer was half empty afterward, but I felt clearer. Like I didn't have to wrestle with my own stuff just to charge my phone. Decluttering your tech isn't about minimalism. It's about function. About not letting junk interrupt the tools you actually need. And speaking of emotional clutter, let's move to something we keep not because it's useful, but because we feel guilty letting it go. This one isn't about space, it's about permission. I had a dress I never wore. Still had the tag on. Every time I opened the closet, it stared back at me like a quiet accusation. You spent money on me. You should wear me. But I didn't because it didn't fit right. It didn't feel like me. And honestly, I bought it on a bad day, hoping it would make me feel better. So many of us keep things not because we love them or even use them, but because we feel bad letting them go. The shoes that never quite fit, the skincare you abandoned after one use, the book you didn't finish, even the hobby supplies for something you lost interest in years ago. We hold on to these things because getting rid of them feels like admitting a mistake. But here's what's true. Keeping them doesn't undo the past, it just clutters the present. Try this: find one item you've been keeping out of guilt. Hold it, and instead of asking, should I keep this, ask, what am I really holding on to here? If it's shame, regret, or a version of yourself that no longer fits, it's okay to release it. I gave that dress away to someone who actually wore it and looked beautiful in it. And just like that, it went from being a weight in my closet to something useful in someone else's life. Letting go of guilt clutter is one of the kindest things you can do for yourself. It's a quiet way of saying I no longer punish myself for old decisions. Next, we're heading to the kitchen, to a small space with big potential for relief: your spice and dry goods shelf. Let's open that pantry or spice drawer not to cook, but to breathe a little easier. There was a time when I avoided that one shelf in the kitchen, the one with the spices I didn't recognize, baking ingredients I never used, and things so far past their best by dates, I wasn't sure if they were food or fossils, but I didn't throw them out. I kept telling myself maybe one day I'll bake again. Maybe I'll use that dried dill. But maybe is heavy. Every time I opened that cabinet, I didn't just see ingredients, I saw a version of myself I was trying to live up to. And it made me feel behind. One afternoon, I gave myself 10 minutes. I grabbed a trash bag and a damp cloth. I pulled out every jar, every box, every bag of flour, and I checked the dates. Anything expired, sticky, stale, or simply never used, gone. I wiped the shelf, kept what I actually cook with, and closed the door. The next morning, making breakfast felt lighter. I wasn't rummaging. I wasn't reminded of what I should be doing. I was just making eggs. This kind of decluttering isn't about aesthetics. It's about letting your kitchen reflect your real life, not the imagined version. And from here, let's move to a category that often tugs at our hearts but rarely gets used: the forgotten toys and kid stuff. Now we're stepping into emotional territory: the toys, books, and baby gear that once mattered so much, but no longer do. I had a small basket of baby rattles tucked in a corner of the closet. My kids had long outgrown them, but every time I looked at that basket, something in me hesitated. It wasn't just about the objects, it was the memories, the phase of life they reminded me of. But here's the thing: those moments already happened. The love, the snuggles, the noise, they're part of me, whether I keep the rattle or not. We often hold on to children's things not because they're useful, but because they represent a chapter we're not sure we're ready to close. A bottle warmer, a favorite bedtime book, that tiny shoe you found behind the couch, they become emotional anchors. Here's a way to approach it gently. Choose one bin, one basket, or one drawer. Sort through it with this question: is this still serving my family, or is it holding space for something we've already lived through? You don't have to throw everything away. You can keep one or two deeply meaningful items, place them in a memory box, not the middle of the hallway. But let the rest move on. Donate, share with a friend, pass it forward. When I finally let go of that basket of rattles, I felt surprisingly okay. The memories stayed, the guilt didn't. Letting go of kid clutter isn't about forgetting. It's about making room for the version of your family that exists now. Up next, we're heading to a place many of us forget: the bathroom cabinet. Specifically, all those beauty products we swore we'd use, but haven't. Let's open that bathroom cabinet not to clean, just to check what's quietly collecting dust. At one point, I had 3 open jars of moisturizer, 5 lipsticks I never wore, 2 expired face masks, and a bottle of dry shampoo that made my scalp itch, but I kept them all. Why? Because they were expensive. Because I might use them. Because tossing them felt wasteful. But every morning, I'd open that cabinet and feel cluttered. Not just by the bottles, but by the mental weight of shoulds. I should finish this. I should try that color again. I should get back to my skincare routine. Here's the truth: if something makes you feel bad every time you look at it, it doesn't belong in your daily space. Try this: take everything out of that cabinet or drawer. Wipe the shelf, pick up each item, and ask, do I use this? Do I actually like how it makes me feel? If it's expired, irritating, or just not your thing anymore, it's okay to let it go. I kept one lipstick for 3 years because I thought it looked grown up. I never wore it. Letting it go felt like finally admitting I get to define what grown-up looks like for me. Our routines should serve us, not guilt us. And now, for our last tip, something many of us don't even recognize as clutter: the items that belong to a version of ourselves we've already outgrown. Let's finish with one of the hardest: the items that belong to a version of you that you've quietly grown past. I had a pair of heels I used to wear to every big meeting. They made me feel powerful, polished, like I had it together. But when I pulled them out recently, they hurt, literally. My feet had changed, my lifestyle had changed, I had changed. But for some reason, I kept them like a reminder of someone I once was or thought I needed to be. You might have things like that too. Clothes that no longer fit your body or your style, books from a phase you've outgrown, craft supplies for a hobby you haven't touched in years. They're not bad things, they're just tied to a chapter you're no longer living. Here's a gentle approach. Find one item in your home that makes you think: I used to wear this. I used to be this kind of person. I used to think I needed this. And ask, do I still want to carry this into who I am now? I donated those heels. And it wasn't just about the shoes. It was about saying I can be strong without squeezing myself into something that no longer fits. Letting go of old versions of yourself isn't sad. It's respectful. It means you're allowing yourself to change and making room for who you've become. And maybe after all these tiny goodbyes, one box, one bottle, one memory at a time, what you're really left with is not just a cleaner home, but a quieter mind. That was a glimpse into 15 small things you can let go of, not to have a perfect home, but to have a calmer one. Just one drawer, one shelf, one decision at a time. If you're in a season where everything feels loud or heavy, I hope this gave you one gentle place to begin. And if you want to go further, I have another video on how to declutter room by room. It might help you figure out what to do next without the pressure. If this video made anything feel even a little bit lighter, feel free to like or share, just so I know what truly helps. And if you're about to start decluttering tomorrow, wait. There's one crucial thing no one talks about, and skipping it could mean wasting all that effort. I'll share it in the very next video, and honestly, once I learned it, I never approached decluttering the same way again. See you there.